Hey girlies, Amber here. Before we jump into the show, I have something for you. That's right, it's a gift, something for free, just to make you feel abundant and wealthy. I put together a super chic, free to download net worth tracker. It's super cute and pretty, and it gets the job done. Listen, I've been tracking my net worth since 2016, and since then, it's grown by 677%. It's insane. And listen, it's not the net worth tracker that did it, but it is my attention to my big financial goals. And seeing it all on paper has given me the laser focus that I need to get really serious about my financial journey. Keeping track of your net worth is one of the most powerful things you can do to take control of your financial life, and I want to help you do that. So this is free to download. You can get it at oldmoneypodcast.com/networth, all one word. Drop your email. It'll get sent to you immediately. You just make a copy. It's in Google Sheets, and you can plug all your numbers in to see what your net worth is today. Again, it's oldmoneypodcast.com/networth. If you have questions about how to use it, go back and listen to episode 35. It's called Tracking Your Net Worth. It's worth its weight in gold because that's what it really is. oldmoneypodcast.com/networth, and let me know what you think. Hello, rich girls. Welcome back to another episode of Old Money, the podcast for women building the trust funds they wish they were born with. I'm your host, Amber Frankusen, and we're going into part 2 of a really incredible Q&A. All the questions are submitted by our amazing community of rich girls. So thank you so much for writing in. If you have a question to submit, you're always more than welcome to do so through Instagram, TikTok, our website, email, SpeakPipe, carrier pigeon, whatever makes the most sense to you. I'm here to receive them. This podcast was developed to be a resource for you, for me, for us. So that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to answer your questions. So feel free to always send them in. And if you haven't yet listened to the first Q&A that I dropped last week, that's okay. You don't even have to go back and listen if you don't feel like it. But there are other really good questions in there. We talked about what it means to be an old money man from an amazing listener who wrote in from Australia, which I'm obsessed with. We have a spicy question about me being obsessed with money and if it really buys happiness. And the other question we answered was about how to better understand what you're spending on your credit card so that you're not surprised by the bill when you go to pay it off every single month. So really good questions on the first one. And in this one today, we have a really good question about why old money exists and what it really means. We're going to talk about some investments that I've made. And then we're also going to talk about merging finances. If we have time, I said this on the last one too. Maybe we can do another. I have a couple backups here as well. But some of the things you guys wrote in are going to need to be their own podcast episodes. I'm obsessed. This one, for example, it says, I'm keen on expanding my network within the high society. Because as they say, you are the sum of people you surround yourself with. I'm unsure about how to connect and befriend those individuals. What are your tips? Hello, I'm obsessed. That's going to have to be its whole own episode, though, all about networking and things like that. We did do a podcast episode about making friends. It's called Jill Zarin Has a Fabulous Circle of Friends, and so can you. We love a Jill Zarin reference. We also have, imposter syndrome. We have, I started a marketing agency and I need some help. I am your girl for that. I've got this one about, do we need a financial advisor? We've had one for the past few years. All of these are coming on future episodes. I'm just teasing them. I'm sorry. But for now, let's get into this episode. We have some amazing mailbox money. Now, what is mailbox money, you ask? That's when your passive income is set up so beautifully that all you have to do to earn your keep is walk down to the corner and grab your mail out of the mailbox, and there will be checks waiting for you in there. It's the most passive form of building wealth, and it's the thing that should make you feel absolutely luxurious. But the thing that makes me feel absolutely luxurious is getting these luxurious messages from you. We already covered how to send them in, so you know the drill, but let's get into it today. I love this first question, came through the website, and it's from Nettie, and she says, so I randomly stumbled across your podcast looking for something to listen to that was the topic of old money, and I absolutely love you. Thanks, Nettie. I love you too. She says, with that being said, I skip around listening to different episodes. Can you go over some of the old money rules? I want to know them. She also has a second question in here, but I'm going to save that for another episode because it's really good, which is scripting hard conversations. So Nettie, we're going to come back to part 2 of your question in another episode. But I thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of introduce old money again and take it from the top, because I don't even think I actually did that. When I first started the podcast, if you go back and listen to episode 1, which even though I'm sure in a few years I will think is absolutely cringe, it's a really good example of I didn't know what the hell I was doing to start this podcast. I knew I wanted to do something. And I was like, do I do like an intro to old money? Do I just jump right in? And if you listen to the first episode, you will hear that I had to re-record the first episode like 4 times. I think what actually went up live is the 4th version of it. But I never really introduced old money. And so, since also there's a ton of new listeners here, new community members, I also thought I should introduce myself. So, nice to meet you. My name is Amber Frankusen. I live in San Diego with my fiance and my Chow Chow dog, who's sitting under my desk right now. So if you start to hear her snore, that's part of the ASMR benefit of the show. So please enjoy. Old money is my passion project. It is the thing that I love to talk about, what I'm obsessed with, money. Go back to listen to the last episode for me to break down what being obsessed with money really means and what it doesn't mean. But anyway, but for my day job, I own a business. I am the CEO and founder of AF Marketing, which is a creative marketing agency based here in San Diego. We specialize in branding, website design and development, social media management, graphic design, strategy. Anything that you need as a business owner to get more business is what we help our clients do in a elevated, beautiful way. We're known for our edgy and sophisticated brands. My background prior to starting this agency was in real estate development. So we do a lot of work in the real estate development space. What that means is when you build a new high rise, we will be the ones to give it the name, brand it, tell the story, write the copy for the website, build the website, manage a social media account afterwards. We also work with a lot of aesthetic medicine practitioners. So think cosmetic dentists, med spas. We work with tech companies who support the aesthetic medicine space. We also have some clients in yachting. We have clients in personal development. We do a lot of different things to keep it a little bit spicy, a little bit interesting. My mom was in real estate during 2008. So I lived through the real estate recession that I was going through right when I was trying to graduate from college. And one of my philosophies is to diversify. So our agency is absolutely diversified in the talent, in the services that we offer, and in the industries that we do serve. But the thing that they all have in common is luxury. We run a luxury marketing agency, meaning our clients have a very easy job. All they have to do is show up and we basically surprise and delight them and achieve all their goals by being uber creative, uber resourceful, and presenting them with really elegant, amazing brands. We also understand the luxury market because a lot of our clients' clients are either high net worth individuals or ultra high net worth individuals. Like, think about who's buying a yacht. Okay. It's not the same buyer as a Mazda. It's a different type of messaging, a presentation, expectation. So we really pride ourselves in being boutique and small. And we're doing I'm so incredibly proud of the team that we've built here at AF Marketing. It's been a journey for sure. It's absolutely the most hardcore personal development I've ever done in leading a business and leading a team. But it's going great and we're profitable. We're growing year over year. We're working on better projects, more projects. We're refining our client list all the time. We have the best clients in the whole damn world. Like, I'm obsessed with everyone that we work with. So it's been a great experience to build that agency and build something for really myself, my family, my future. And the thing is, I'm not anti-job. Like, jobs are great. Being an entrepreneur is a choice, okay? And it comes with a little bit of desperation or mental instability, I think, because I didn't mean to start this agency. I actually, prior to starting the agency, worked in real estate development, and I was in a very big role for my level of experience, and I was totally burnt out. It was a lot of pressure. It was at times toxic, but also I had a lot to do with that as well, of where I was at in my personal development or lack thereof at the time. And so I left that job. I had given my boss 9 months notice. I was basically waiting for a condo building that I actually can see right now from my window of my office. I can see the condo building that I opened. I was waiting for it to be completed so that we could close $60 million of homes in escrow after we got C of O, which is certificate of occupancy, meaning that the building was approved, people could move in. And I wanted to throw this big ass party. It was the best party ever. I actually just got approached at another real estate event not too long ago of somebody who said, "Oh my God, you threw that party. That was the best freaking party I've ever been to in San Diego." So I did that in partnership with my friend Nicole Gray, and we had an incredible party at this building. And then I left because I was burnt out. And I had spent the last 2 years interviewing at the top real estate development companies in the country. I was flown to New York City, talking to firms in Miami and Los Angeles. I interviewed with the CEO of some of the most massive real estate development companies in the nation. And I was offered roles for vice president of marketing or marketing director or development director, new marketing. I don't know, whatever it was. And I was interviewing and I was like, I don't care what I do or where I go in real estate development. I'm going to continue to be burnt out. I've got to find a better way. I don't know what to do. But I left that job that I was at so that I could take a sabbatical. I had basically saved my money for a year so that I could take an indeterminate amount of time off. And I saved that money and I was like, I'm just going to rest for a little bit and I'll find a job later. And so I made a lot of changes to my lifestyle to be able to do that. I got a roommate in the tiniest beach bungalow you've ever seen in your entire life. And as an only child, that was very uncomfortable for me. The first couple roommates that I had, not great until I found one that was lovely towards the end of that kind of journey. But I started tracking my spending like to the dollar. I needed to get out of credit card debt. I needed to save. And I did save $33,000 so that I wouldn't have to work because I knew exactly what my monthly expenditures were, what my fixed expenditures were. I paid off all my debt. I was like, if I have $33,000, I can last for 6 months, basically, comfortably, and live my best life or travel or do whatever I want to do. And so I really shrunk my expenditures so that I was able to do that. And I made choices around that at that time. Like at the job I was at, I was making 6 figures. I had huge hookups to incredible real estate opportunities. I could have bought a house at that time. It wouldn't have been in the neighborhood I wanted. It wouldn't have been across the street from the sand like the little beach bungalow was that I had. But I made choices and I'm really proud of myself for making a lot of the sacrifices I did at that time because an opportunity came, which was about 2 months after I left my job. My phone rang and somebody said, "Will you help me with my social media profile?" And I said, "Sure." And then I thought, "Oh shit, I have a business. Okay, I got to open a bank account. I got to found this business." And so I started working in that way. And, I was good at my job. I did really well for them. And then I got another person that asked me for help with their marketing. So I had my second client. And then that person gave me a referral. And I had my third client. And all of a sudden I had more work than I had time to do, but I was doing good work. So I wanted to do more of it. So I started hiring people. And that's how this business grew. And it was through that whole journey of climbing the corporate ladder, doing everything right, starting from the bottom, working hard in real estate development when there was no job. So I started in student housing and in sales, leasing apartments, worked my way up, continued to insert myself, had bigger conversations, got in with the chief marketing officer at that job and go to the conferences. I learned the things. I built my skills. I climbed my way up to vice president of sales and marketing at the firm. I got the title. I got the paycheck. I had everything I thought I wanted and I was still miserable. And I was like, what is going on? I was dealing with overspending. I was in debt. I had a potential to be really caught up badly in golden handcuffs. I could have bought a new car when I was told I should by my coworkers who were all buying new cars or designer shoes, and I didn't. And I made different choices. And it was through all of this, saving the money, learning how to live lean, and then starting a business because I had made the sacrifices to have the money in the bank so that I could pay my rent while I was starting my business when I wasn't taking any salary, because that $33,000 that I had saved that I thought was going to give me 6 months of lead time to start looking for another job, I stretched that for a year because I wasn't taking a real salary off the business. I was reinvesting everything that I made and then taking as little as I could from the business so that I could pay rent and survive. Like I lived very lean. I didn't have any additional expenses until life happened. And then I found myself in 5 figures of credit card debt and I started the whole cycle over again. It was like, I thought I had healed this. Like what happened? And I was really taking control of my money psychology and what was coming up for me, why I was overspending, and then diving deeper into personal development. And that's why I'm so passionate about this podcast, about old money. And what it is it's the new rules to old money. Because typically when we think about old money, we think about people who have been given money from their family or, somebody many generations ago, like Grandpa Rockefeller made it. And now I'm the beneficiary of it. I'm a Nepo baby or a trust fund baby. And that's not sexy to me. In fact, that's really a turnoff. You just got all of your money and you didn't work for it. You didn't build anything. You didn't try anything. You didn't experiment. You didn't invest. You didn't learn. That's lazy. And that's not hot. And the new rules to old money are like, what can we learn from examining the values and the practices that have been gatekept from us from so many years? All the things that the generationally wealthy families do, how can we apply them to our lives today? And that's things like multiple streams of income, entrepreneurship, investment strategy. It's about money mindset. It's about normalizing conversations about money around our dinner tables the same way people with money talk about money, and they talk about it not from a place of stress, but from a place of opportunity. And so how can we move ourselves into a place of calm financial stability so we can have conversations with our partners that are not mega blow up nuclear fights every time we need to discuss money? It's about strategy. It's about forward planning. It's about investments. It's about growth as opposed to chaos and stress and pain. I want to change our relationship with money also from these conversations that we grew up with. I literally have the Dave Ramsey book sitting on my desk behind me. It's a good reference point. Like, I want to know what the other teachings are out there. But I'm sorry to Dave and his family, by the way. Like, I talk so much shit about Dave and like don't know the man. He has some really good principles in there, but he's pretty rough and times are changed. This is not the early 1990s where you can take, a 15-year mortgage out and pay it down so significantly. Like, if you have a 2% mortgage and you're really trying to pay it down because you think debt is bad, that's not a holistic picture of the economics of the world right now and where opportunities are for you to leverage that low interest rate. And instead of paying down the debt that you are shameful about, because a lot of Dave's teachings are about shame around debt, and instead leverage that low cost debt. And I say low cost in relation to even where we are right now, and exercise your money in a different way where it's earning more for you, even in a high yield savings account or in an investment strategy that advocates for investing in index funds or dollar cost averaging strategies or whatever it might be. And you're saying, what does that mean? That's what it's here for. That's what we're doing on Old Money here. And I love, back to our letter writer, Nettie, I love that you're jumping around and listening to different episodes because there's so many different ways we could go about this. There's not just one way to address our money psychology or our emotions with money or the tactical practices that we put in place. There's a million different options. And depending on where anyone is on their financial journey, they might need to pick from a menu of things to make a plan that makes sense for them. So that's why this show exists, because I went through this. I was a corporate burnout with mountains of credit card debt. And now I am a successful entrepreneur. I've more than 6x'd my net worth in 5 years. I'm interested in building businesses. I speak often about marketing, building business, entrepreneurship. I'm talking about money all the time because I love talking about money and I study it. I read it. When I'm going to bed at night, I'm not watching TikToks about makeup routines. That's not what interests me. My TikTok algorithm is about finance and economics. And then I'm reading Reddit and I'm reading stories about people being financially independent and retiring early. I'm looking at charts. Like, this is what I love to do and talk about. And I also think it's really important for me to underscore the fact that while I've lived through it, I'm not certified by anybody. I'm not a certified financial planner. I'm not, I didn't go to school for this. I went to school for business and for marketing. So why am I qualified to talk about this? Because I'm committed. I'm committed to learning. I'm committed to knowing when I don't know something. I'll research it. I'll do the work, and I'm figuring it out because I'm passionate about it. And I want this to be a permission slip for anybody out there who's waiting for the education, for the paperwork or whatever to do the thing they care about. Nobody has any credentials to podcasts. And it is still the opportunity of all of us who listen to any podcast, whether it's Call Her Daddy or Joe Rogan or Skinny Confidential, to go out and verify the facts and do it for themselves. But what I'm really here to do is to democratize the information and not make it scary for you or for me, so that we can do better with our money and we can do better with how we build our lives in a really intentional way. So, the Old Money podcast is really built to equip all women of all backgrounds with the new rules in business, in mindset, in financial strategy, so that we can build the trust funds that we wish we were born with. So, that's why I open the show that way every single time. But as it relates to the new rules, like what are the rules? Well, I have 25 of them. I've mentioned this before and I've brought them up on a couple of different episodes, especially when it ties in. But before I started this podcast, I'm very thorough and systematic about my projects. And I mean, if you look at our marketing agency, for example, like we have a Wikipedia for every single client that we work with, whether it's a list of the best hashtags or their scope or their friends on social media or competitor accounts or phraseology, whatever it is, we document absolutely everything that we do for our clients. And I did that before I started this podcast. I have this huge wiki for Old Money that talks about everything from the affirmations that I say to myself before I get on the mic, to information on our trademark, to the ambassadors that we have to the show, the goals, the milestones, the branding, the creative, and a bunch of articles about Old Money, what it means, why it's trendy, what the aesthetic is, the vision for the show, lingo, news sources, all the different things, like outlines, the tech and IT, like it's a full Wikipedia. Very important if you're a business owner, by the way, to have everything like this fully written out so that if you get hit by a bus, somebody else can pick up the ball and run with it. Now, what I did in addition to all of this wiki information is I set out to think about, and really I thought about it for months. What are old money values? And I'm talking about my version of old money, our version of old money. I'm not talking about generational wealth old money. I'm talking about what we're building here today on this podcast, which is the values that I think I live by financially. And you'll notice that a lot of the values are not just financial, they're mindset based. And they're also based, again, on these practices or these values that old money families have always had, but they're just the new updated version of them. And I have 25 of these values that I wrote out. And what I've been doing over the course of releasing these episodes is basically this is my litmus test. These are my North Stars. And I'm asking myself, do these topics align with the values? Is the thought that I'm sharing aligned with the values that I believe an old money value is? Or do I need to adjust my value or adjust my presentation so that it feels more inclusive, for example? Is my presentation coming from a place of abundance or a place of fear? Am I saying that the only true wealth in the world is related to money? Am I being conscientious about where other people are in their money journeys? Am I releasing shame for people that need support in that area? Or am I normalizing emotions around money? Like all these different things, right? So this is my litmus test. And I wanted to share some of them with you today, Nettie. I mean, you asked. So a couple of my favorites are number one, the number one value to old money is that these are new rules. This one says to create old money level wealth and legacy in today's world, there are a new set of rules to follow. While old money values are still legit, family, values, investing, entrepreneurship, education, philanthropy, we have to update them to today's world. And the reason we call them rules is because this is all a game. The life, the career, the journey, it can all be fun if you let it. We're going to talk about all the ways to play within the system as it exists and how we can leverage it to our benefit. So again, when we're talking about the new rules, this is unfortunately why Dave Ramsey is obsolete, because he's still playing in a paradigm that's set in the 1990s, early 2000s. He's talking about paying off debt like your life depends on it instead of leveraging opportunities and adjusting to the economic variables that we all play with. He also didn't grow up as a millennial. I graduated from college in 2009 in the height of the recession. I was trying to get into real estate after the mortgage bubble. Are you kidding me? Not only that, but millennials had to spend some of their prime working years in COVID. If you're Gen Z and you spent any of your early 20s where you were supposed to be in an office cutting your teeth around other like more successful people than you, learning from them, observing them, watching them, or even in college, you missed out on that huge opportunity. Dave Ramsey's era was when people were just starting to not work at the same job for their whole career. In his era, people maybe changed jobs once or twice in their career path, where now us as 20 somethings, 30 somethings, we have 5 jobs because we're creating content on TikTok, we're teaching Pilates in the weekend, we're consulting as a side hustle, and we have a 9 to 5 so we can have our healthcare benefits. I mean, it wasn't uncommon in the 90s and the 80s for it to be a one earner household where one parent stays at home, cares for the kids, and the other person works a 40-hour a week job and has 2 cars in the driveway and a mortgage fully paid for. I mean, that is just not our reality today. So are we going to try to pretend that that's the way the world works and follow the old rules? Or are we going to have a growth mindset? We're going to look for opportunities. We're going to be honest about the way things are. That's what a good leader does. They look at things for how they are, not how they wish they were. And they make adjustments based on reality. And that's what this podcast is about. Value number 1. We're playing by new rules. And part of understanding what new rules are is that they're going to change. The only constant is going to be change. And we have to be open to the conversations, adaptable, exploring, experimenting. That's what we're here to do on this podcast. Okay, I'm just going to pick out one other old money value here as an example, because as we go through, Nettie, and you start to listen to more and more episodes, I'm going to drop more and more of these nuggets. But this one I really love because I think it perfectly encapsulates the difference between an old money view and the new rules of old money, which is true wealth is not built by frugality. It's built by mindfulness. Now, a lot of generationally wealthy families are known to be really frugal. It's that whole trope of like, when you go back to Connecticut, everybody's driving an old beat up Volvo. Nobody buys a new car, blah, blah, blah. Because you're not wealthy by what you have to show off with. You're wealthy because of the money in the bank, right? But while those habits do help them live below their means and save for the future, frugality does not equal wealth, because while you might be giving more to your bank account, you're starving your quality of life. Going back to the Volvo example, like I'm definitely not one that's going to advocate for leasing a car, getting a new one every 3 years if you can't afford it. I definitely paid off my car incredibly quickly. And we're nearing 190,000 miles on my car right now that Justin and I share as a 1-car household. And I said from the beginning, I was going to drive this car till the wheels fell off. And that's exactly what we're doing. Unfortunately for us, the wheels are about to fall off. So we're looking for a new car right now. But when we think about these Volvos, for example, and I think about being frugal, I'm going to give my teenager my Volvo from 1992 that's still running. It's got 250,000 miles on it. You know what I'm not doing? That. Because you know what a Volvo from 2000 whatever doesn't have? The best safety equipment. I want to make sure that if I drive a car, I give it to a child, it's equipped with the best available safety options that are out there. You want to give your kid a 1992 Corolla? That's fine. In 1992, there weren't these big ass cyber trucks driving around on the street. Okay. Now you can literally get run over as a car, as a vehicle on the highway by a tank handcrafted by Elon Musk himself. And you think a 1992 Toyota Corolla is going to withstand that? Absolutely not. So being frugal as a practice, as a way of being, as just a value, I discard it. I'm not a frugal person. I'm a mindful person. I'm very mindful about where my money goes, about how I invest it, where I spend it, where I save it. I want it to go to the things that are important to me, but I'm not frugal for the sake of being frugal. I'm going to buy things for quality. Yeah, I'm going to drive them till the wheels fall off, to use that analogy. But just frugality as a way to build wealth is not true, because not only are you only focused on the money version of wealth, you are completely degrading your quality of life. Again, I always say, if you save all of your money to go on a round the world vacation when you're 65, you missed out on all the times you could have traveled when you were younger, when you were hotter, when you had more energy, when your knees weren't banging around, causing you to not go all the way to the top of the mountain on your hike. It's a different way of looking at things where we have to holistically evaluate all of the values of wealth in our life, whether it's opportunities to travel, to splurge on the things that make us feel really good. Like maybe you're a car person. Maybe cars is where you put your money, but you live in a shack because you don't care where you live. You just care about what you drive. Well, that's a mindful decision that you can make as a conscious spender. It's up to you. But don't let anybody tell you that being frugal is the only way to get wealthy. It's just a way to hoard money. It's not a way to live a wealthy life. So, Nettie, those are 2 of 25 right now, old money rules that I've gone through. And I so appreciate, you asking this question, but I don't have a way to boil it down for you. It's a mindset. In the last episode, I talk about an old money man and if it's the same as an old money woman. Go back and listen to that and let me know what you think. I'd love to know what your take on is an old money mindset overall. So thank you, babe, for your question. I'm going to save the second half for another episode, but let's go on to Claudia's question. Claudia wrote in from our website, which is oldmoneypodcast.com. She said, would love to hear your take on successful women merging finances or not with the man you will marry. Love this question, Claudia. I would first of all refer everybody back to the podcast episode that I recorded with Natalie Alicia Goldberg. It's called The Prenup Playbook. And we talk about this. We talk about merging finances with a partner and what it does to your quality of your relationship. There was actually a study done that showed that people who had not combined their finances with their partner, with a married partner, they experienced a normative decline in the quality of their relationship because of feelings like they were doing this on their own. And people who had combined finances in some way, shape, or form felt more aligned with their partner and that they were striving towards the same goals together. So that's the study. What's my take? Well, it's going to depend on everybody's individual relationship. And there is no one way to do this. There's a lot of different ways to set up your finances. You could keep them completely separate. You could completely merge them. You could have some separate, some not separate, right? Some combined. In California, if you're married, California is a community property state. So even if it's in your own account or his own account or their own account, it's still property of both parties. It's all shared. So his money is my money is his money, etc. Unless you have a prenup that says otherwise. That's just how the law works. The thing that I do not advocate for is not understanding what your partner's finances look like. If you're going to get married, you need to be able to completely transparently understand everything that your partner has or doesn't have. That means understanding savings, investments, spending habits, debt, student loan debt, consumer debt, loan debt, any of it. If you're going to merge your finances with somebody, you need to do so with eyes wide open. And if that person that you're marrying is not willing to not only share before you get married, but isn't willing to check in with you periodically and you do the same with them, you need to reevaluate why you're getting married. Because marriage is a legal and financial business decision. It's not about romance. It's really not. I'm so sorry. You could be in love with somebody forever and never need to get married to them. They could be your soulmate, the love of your life, and you never need to get married to them. If you want to get married, it needs to be for your financial and legal benefits. So my biggest thing about this is you can set up your bank accounts however you feel most comfortable. I think what most people do these days is they have some separate monies that they have for their own spending that they can use to spend on what they like without questioning it. And then they have some sort of combined household fund where maybe they put in together, they contribute, whether it's 50-50 or depending on salary, maybe you make 60% of the household income, your partner makes 40%. So you put in 60% of your needed costs for the household and they contribute 40%. And then you use that account to pay your mortgage, your rent, your childcare, whatever that might be. So that's what I think most people are doing these days. And I think that's a pretty good system if you have a really healthy budget and you want to give yourself some autonomy and your partner wants some autonomy. But the biggest thing that I have to underscore is you need to understand what is happening in those bank accounts. Like if your partner has a gambling problem, a spending habit, a bunch of Birkins keep showing up in your closet and you're like, where do those come from? Those are the types of things that you need to be really conscientious of when you're in early stages of a relationship. And also people change over time through marriage, whatever. and making sure that you're on the same page. Now, this goes back to the second part of Nettie's question, our last question, our last listener question. She was talking about scripts of starting family meetings or opening hard conversations. That's going to have to be its own podcast because that is, I mean, just having hard conversations in general takes skill and it takes confidence. And I know it can be really scary, but you never want to be in a position where you don't know if the other shoe is going to drop because you don't know what's going on with your partner's finances, if you're fully responsible for everything on your own. And so my comment to you, Claudia, is my take on successful woman merging finances or not with a man you will marry. It's more about a successful woman would require a man that she marries to be transparent about his finances. And she would do the same because that's what this marriage is about, honestly. One of the most important financial decisions you can make in your life is who you marry, not just because of their earning potential or the assets in their bank, but because of how you're going to be supported to follow your dreams or have the children you want to have or live where you want to live. All of that needs to be done and can be done when you have more players on the team. You can get further together than you can alone. I believe that wholeheartedly. But what that takes is getting transparent. And on the flip side of that, you don't want to not know if your partner has debt, for example, that you might have hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt that you're not aware of. I mean, Teresa Giudice is always what I go back to on this, right? She was signing paperwork that her husband was giving her without even looking at it or feigning ignorance, and it landed her in jail for a year. It also landed her a couple of specials with Andy Cohen and status as one of the only OGs on New Jersey Housewives. But I'm so sorry. No time in jail is going to be worth getting time on TV. Absolutely not. Or what about Lisa Hochstein from Miami? She's going through a very public, contentious divorce with somebody who made a lot more money than she did. She did not have a prenup to protect her going into the marriage. She was completely out of control of the dissolution of the marriage. It was not her choice. And she's fighting tooth and nail to try to sustain the lifestyle that she's been accustomed to when she hasn't been the primary income earner. And unfortunately, her partner's being, you can call it unreasonable or not reasonable, or he's defending himself, whatever position you want to take. No judgment here. There's two sides to every story. I have to say that. But the reality is that she did not know anything about her financial stature. She just trusted. And that's the type of situation a successful woman needs to avoid. A successful woman, it doesn't mean how much money you make. It means how much control you have over your destination, right? And so those conversations are hard. I want to acknowledge that. They can be really scary and it can feel like do or die. Honestly, I do or you die. Like you have to be able to walk away from something that is not going to financially suit you and not give a fuck if anybody is going to judge you for calling off a wedding, calling off an engagement, deciding you don't want to get married because that partner is not a financial partner for you. I would never go into a business deal with someone who wasn't a good financial match for me in business. Like, you think I want to merge companies with another company that has $1 million in debt when I have no debt and I've bootstrapped my entire company? I don't think so. There's no fucking way I would do that. So why would I do that to myself on an individual basis with a partner? It's something to think about. And if that's something that you've gone through or you're going through, please write to me and let me know about it. I would love to support you. I'd love to facilitate that conversation. If it's something that you've worried about, you're dating right now, and you want to have those conversations, write to me. Let's talk about it. If you're a business owner, tell me which of these following statements would be the thing you'd like to hear today. A, I need you to speak at South by Southwest to promote your business. B, I need someone to speak on a podcast so that you can promote your business. Or C, I need to hire someone who does exactly what you do. Can I hire you? Obviously, the answer is D, all of the above, and each of these statements are things I saw posted within 10th House in the last week. Today's episode is sponsored by Female Founder Collective and their exclusive membership community, 10th House. 10th House is a private membership through Female Founder Collective that's designed to support, develop, and elevate female founders. I've been in this network for over a year, and honestly, it's the best community I've ever joined. The ROI is so beyond positive. It's a no-brainer for me, and that's why I wanted to share it with you. Old money girlies are hustling, they're bustling, they're businessing. And for me, I have found so many hookups and shortcuts and resources and friends in this group. So if you're feeling like it's lonely at the top, then baby, we got to flip that script and you got to get into this group. 10th House is getting even better in 2024. They're really making it specific to industries. So for example, if you're an agency owner, they're going to connect you and set you up in cohorts with other agency owners. Or if you're in CPG, they'll connect you with other CPG owners, etc. Of course, you'll still be able to cross into the larger group, but the idea is to get into the weeds of it with the people who know your lingo, your issues, your workflows, and get super specific. To apply, go to the10thhouse.femalefoundercollective.com. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. And there you're also going to find the code for 15% off of your annual membership. The code is Old Money, all one word. Again, link is in the show notes. It's the10thhouse.femalefoundercollective.com. Code is Old Money for 15% off your annual membership. Please let me know when you join. I would love to see you in there. Okay, the last question for today. We are going to run out of time. I'm sorry I talk so much. I guess I'm supposed to. That's why you're here listening, right? The last question, again, came through question box on Instagram, and it just stated, what are some of the best investments you've made? And I thought about this and I immediately had my answers. I was thinking about exchange traded funds or stocks that I've invested in. And I was like, wait a minute. This is a way bigger question than just my investment strategy. Because by the way, this is not investment advice. There's a disclaimer at the end of every podcast to remind you of that. And I'm not here to tell you what stocks to buy. I'm not Jim Cramer who tells you every stock to buy and then it's wrong. There's actually an index fund that tracks what Jim Cramer does, like the opposite of it, to see how wrong he is, because they're basically shorting him and betting that every piece of advice that he gives on his show, Mad Money, is bad. But I digress. The best investments that I have made, honestly, were investing in my company's 401k and match plan when I had them. So when I was working in corporate, I had 2 corporate jobs for long periods of time, and I put as much money as I could afford to. I should have put more into my company 401k as a retirement nest egg. And that 401k, both of them, I've rolled over into traditional IRAs. Now, a 401k and the money that you use to fund that, you put pre-tax money in there. So when you go to withdraw it at retirement, you will pay taxes at that time. There's a couple of different trains of thoughts with that. You might say, well, at that time, my overall income per year will be lower. I'll be living really lean, so my taxes will be less. Or maybe your financial strategy is to live really large at that time, be in a really high tax bracket. So maybe you pay a lot of taxes on that money, but you didn't pay taxes on it before when you put it in, so whatever. So the reason that was such a good investment for me was because of the match. So both of those companies offered a match, which to me really helped to build momentum in those accounts quickly. And as you know, as we'll continue to discuss, with compounding interest, the magic of it, the more money you have early on and the longer you leave it to sit, the more it snowballs and grows because it's compounding on itself all the time. So that was one of the best investments that I made in my financial nest egg and future by contributing even very little at that time. What I wish somebody would have told me in my 20s was how to set up a really easy automatic investment strategy around index funds or exchange traded funds that would be automatic so that I could have capitalized on that. But I was taught and I was told, and I thought that I had to buy individual stocks. And I could never even afford to buy a full stock. I was like, here's $25 this month, $25 the next month. Cool. What am I going to do? Buy one share of Google? And so I did do a little of that. And I do have some of those bigger companies in my portfolio, which have performed very well over time. But one of the best investments that I've made personally was learning about index funds. And index funds track indexes like the Dow Jones Industrial Index or the S&P 500. S&P 500 is the 500 largest companies in the United States. And that index automatically moves companies in and out as they do better or they don't qualify to be in the top 500 anymore. So as an example, Uber was recently moved into the S&P 500 just in the last few months because they finally became profitable, which means another less performing company or worse performing company was moved out of the 500 top performing companies in the United States. So they automatically basically balance the scales to always be tracking the top 500 companies in the United States. And there are plenty of different funds that you can invest in that are called index funds that track these indexes. It's like a collection of stocks, a basket of stocks. The way I like to explain it is that on Bravo, we have all these different shows. We have Summer House, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Real Housewives of Miami, we have Below Deck. And while I might really like Below Deck and think it's going to be the best show on the network, everybody else thinks Real Housewives of Beverly Hills is the best deck or best show, excuse me, not the best deck. So I might say, okay, my stock pick is Below Deck. I'm going to put my money into Below Deck. That person's going to say, I'm betting on Erica Jane, bet it all on Blonde. Let's go ahead and put all my money onto Beverly Hills. And then Beverly Hills becomes incredibly boring and the stock tanks. And then Below Deck becomes incredibly boring because Kate Chastain's no longer the lead deckhand. Nobody wants to watch. And both of those stocks tank. But overall, Bravo as a network continues to bring us better shows. Like all of a sudden we have Real Housewives of Miami, or we have, I don't know, Vanderpump Rules, which was so bad until Scandival. And then Scandival happened and the whole stock for that show went crazy high, right? Everybody was talking about Vanderpump Rules. But if you were watching before Scandival broke, how would you know to have just invested in that stock and not into, I don't know, Beverly Hills? It's hard to know unless you know the inner workings and all the insider trading that's happening behind the scenes, right? Which is why if you want to just invest in Bravo in making great reality TV, you know that certain shows will be good and certain shows will be bad. And they will automatically adjust the scales by retiring the shows that aren't as good and giving us new ones like Southern Hospitality, which people are freaking out about. But that's going to need time to grow. It's a growth stock. So if you think about Bravo as the channel, as like the S&P 500 and all the individual shows as their own companies, it tells you the difference between investing in the idea of the American economy versus investing in the idea of one company. And that to me, and learning about that and figuring out what indexes I want to track has helped my investment strategy so much. So that's one of the best investments that I've made is in the education. And then the other best investments that I have made are in myself. And what I mean by that is like personal development, therapy, meditation, even resting, because the more I invest in myself, the better I show up in my workplace, in my relationship. It means that I'm more successful in work. I'm more successful in relationship. I'm more happy at work. I'm happier in my relationship. My quality of life index goes up exponentially the more that I work on myself. And a lot of that is undoing old patterns, learning about the way that I think about things, up-leveling the way that I deal with new challenges. It's all about the way I show up. And that goes back to what I believe to be an old money man or woman to be, somebody who has an internal locus of control, meaning they know they have ownership over everything that happens to them. And when you start to really acknowledge how you show up in every situation, how you show up in the way that your bank account looks, how you show up in the way that your relationship looks, the paradigm starts to shift to everything's happening to me to, okay, I see how I'm contributing here. I'm going to forgive myself and I'm going to find a new way. And that softness and that gentleness and that ability to be malleable and change over time, I've learned all of that through personal development and through getting the support that I need. And, speaking of investments, support is one of the biggest things that I've invested in, whether it's business support, mindset support, therapeutic support, a massage. Every time I pour back money into myself, I am the stock that will not crash. Like I don't know about you, but when I was starting my business, I decided one day, I just decided, and then I decided to never change my mind, that I was going to be the best bet that I could invest in. I know I'm not going to give up. Only I know that. I'm never going to quit. I've decided. So I decided that any investment I made in myself, I'm going to have a positive ROI. Even if the return on my investment in myself is I'm not doing that again, it's still information that I'm getting back that's helping me move forward. So the best investments that I've ever made have been in learning about index funds and also in myself, in therapy and personal development and listening to podcasts and taking time. When I lived in my little shack by the beach. And I used to walk before I even had my dog. I used to walk many miles every day because I was trying to prove to myself that I would be able to do it if I had a dog. And I would just listen to podcasts. This was like 2016, 17, and I would just walk for hours. And the amount of information that I got from that was invaluable. It was all an investment in myself. And when I started to walk and move my body, I was making an investment in my health. And that time is something that was so precious. And as we get busier and as we have obligations and kids and jobs and businesses and all these other things to do, finding the time to invest in ourselves can be really challenging. But I promise it's always worth it. I learned something, and we need to talk about this business retreat that I just got back from. I just got back from Dallas and had like a life-changing experience that I cannot wait to share about. But I think my biggest takeaway from the retreat was hearing the phrase that sometimes the most productive thing you can do is rest. And that is an investment that you can also make in yourself. So, all these personal development things. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, here's the information. Now go execute it. But we need to take care of ourselves, take care of our bodies, take care of our minds, our hearts, so that we can be the best versions of ourselves, because that is what true wealth really is and what it feels like. It's to be at peace, to have joy, happiness, fulfillment. And that's what I hope you've gotten from this podcast today. I know that I have. Thank you so much for being here. This was really fun, this question and answer format. Let me know if you want to do this again. I'm always going to collect your questions. Anything you email, I have it. I saved the paper. Here's the paper proof. I have all these papers in front of me. We have more questions to go through, but I might format them more like their own episodes. But if you want to talk about anything else that's more personal, more business, more me, more money, whatever, send your questions in. I love you guys so, so much. And I will talk to you on the next episode. Bye-bye. Feeling rich? I hope so. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Old Money. If you have questions you want answered, email me at oldmoneypodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on social. We are at Old Money Podcast, and I am at your service. If this episode spoke to you, inspired you, helped you, if you took a single note, it would mean the world to me if you could please just take a minute to rate and review the podcast. And if you're not doing so already, subscribe. And if you have friends who like getting rich, please share this episode with them, even if it's just on your Instagram story. And I'd love you more than Jeff Bezos loves Amazon Prime. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Remember, I'm not your lawyer, I'm not your tax professional, and I'm not your financial advisor. The content presented in this podcast is intended to entertain, educate, inspire, and support listeners in their personal and professional development and does not constitute business, financial, or legal advice. In addition to that, this episode may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products and services.